60 million people died, the deadliest conflict in all of human history. It reshaped the entire world, and it began with one man's unquenchable ambition. This is the Second World War, the whole story in 5 minutes. Let's go. It started in the ashes of the First World War. Germany was left humiliated, broke, and desperate for revenge. In 1933, a failed painter named Adolf Hitler seized power. He promised glory, vengeance, and a 1,000-year empire. He rebuilt Germany's army and began swallowing his neighbors whole. Austria, then Czechoslovakia. The world just watched and hoped he would stop. He didn't. September 1939. Germany invades Poland. Britain and France declare war. The world is plunged into chaos again. Hitler's Blitzkrieg, lightning war, was unlike anything the world had seen. Tanks and dive bombers tore through defenses in days, not years. At Dunkirk, 300,000 trapped Allied soldiers were plucked from the beaches in a desperate, miraculous escape. By 1940, even mighty France collapsed in just 6 weeks. German soldiers marched beneath the Arc de Triomphe. Europe was falling fast. Only Britain stood alone across a thin strip of gray sea. Winston Churchill promised blood, toil, tears, and sweat, and he meant every word. Hitler sent his air force to break them. The Battle of Britain had begun. Night after night, German bombs rained down on London. The Blitz. But Britain held. The Royal Air Force simply refused to break. And beneath the Atlantic, German U-boats hunted the convoys that kept Britain alive. So Hitler turned east and made the greatest mistake of the war. June 1941. 3 million troops pour into the Soviet Union. They reached the gates of Moscow. Then the merciless Russian winter stopped them cold. Then, December 1941. Japan strikes Pearl Harbor. America, the sleeping giant, is finally dragged into the war. Across the home front, entire nations mobilized, their factories roaring day and night. Now it is truly a world war, raging across every ocean and continent. Japan stormed across the Pacific, seizing a vast empire in a matter of months. In the frozen east, the entire tide turned at Stalingrad. Hundreds of thousands died in the rubble, and the German advance shattered. In the Pacific, America crushed Japan's fleet at Midway. And in the deserts of North Africa, the Allies began to push back. At Kursk, the largest tank battle in history shattered Germany's power in the east for good. But beyond the battlefield, the war hid an unspeakable horror. The Nazis murdered 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. Whole families and communities were erased. A wound that never fully heals. In the south, the Allies stormed into Italy, and Mussolini's fascist empire crumbled. June 6, 1944. D-Day, the largest invasion in history. Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy under withering fire. They clawed their way inland and drove hard toward Germany. In the frozen Ardennes, Germany's last desperate gamble was crushed in the snow. From the east, the Soviet Red Army marched relentlessly on Berlin. Germany was now being crushed from both sides at once. April 1945. With Berlin in ruins, Hitler took his own life. Days later, Germany surrendered. Europe was finally free. The world erupted in celebration. But the war was not yet over. Across the Pacific, the fighting had been savage beyond all imagining. In the Pacific, Japan still refused to surrender. So America unleashed a weapon that would change everything. Hiroshima, then Nagasaki. 2 cities erased in a blinding instant. Japan surrendered. At last, the Second World War was over. 60 million were dead. The world would never be the same again. At Yalta, Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin had met to carve up a shattered world. From the ashes rose 2 superpowers and the seeds of a new Cold War. We rebuilt. We swore never again. The only